Hello and welcome to another segment of Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm Jamie Johnson, the legal and government correspondent, and it's that time of year where we're interviewing candidates for the spring election, and we're featuring the Hudson City Council races. Not much of a race because it's unopposed, but my candidate here for this interview is Randy Morrissette. Randy, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks. Welcome. Thank you.
We were mentioning off camera how you've been a pretty frequent candidate because you've been on the board or on the city council since 2006, right?
Yep.
So this is year 17, but you finished out a term from somebody else?
Yes.
All right. And your district is District 1.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So why don't you give our viewers, because I know it changes slightly, the borders do based on population and so forth. So where does District 1 go?
Okay, so basically the 3rd Street Hill, which is Walnut Street, and 3rd Street all the way up to
So like where the old fire department was?
Correct.
Or it used to be, it's not there anymore.
Correct. To the old, Summer Street, goes right down the middle of, 7th Street South.
Okay.
Goes right down the middle of that, and then all the way over to the south from Summer Street all the way down to the new Lee property and past River Ridge Road. And
Not quite to the new, or to the old dog track?
Not quite. Some of it just outside of past O'Keefe Road.
Okay. Because now we've got Red Cedar Canyon and everything on the other side of that hill, so you don't have any of that.
Right. Historically, my district is a little smaller with population-wise and more of the industrial part, or the old industrial part.
Okay. And you are a business owner here in town?
I don't own right now.
Okay.
No, I did sell my business out
Oh, you did?
a couple of years back.
Okay, okay. But you've been a businessman in town?
Yeah, for almost over 30 years now.
Okay, all right.
Between, my hotel career, which I am back in right now, and then owning a liquor store.
Okay, all right, very good. So, I mean, you've had your pulse on this town, and you were raised and grew up here?
Yep. Born and raised, and I've raised and grown my children here, and they went to the Hudson High School, and I went to the Hudson High School. We've seen all the changes in this community for the good and the bad. And when I say bad, I say that tongue-in-cheek with a little bit of, growing pains.
Well, I mean, yeah, Hudson has not been, able to avoid some controversial subjects, whether it's dog track, whether it's casino, and on other scales. Name the issue. We happen to be in the pendulum swing where everyone and their sister didn't come out to run for office this time, but we've had years like that where that's happened.
Right.
So why do you think this is one of the quiet years?
I think people are tired of being angry, maybe. I know people are frustrated, but yet they want everybody to get along. It's okay to disagree. Sure. Agree to disagree, and you do it respectfully. And that's what I've committed myself to my colleagues on the council now, to be a little more aware. And I've told most of them that my passion sometimes gets in the way, and I come off, I guess you could say, angry, but I'm not. It's just a passion I have because I was born and raised here in Hudson. I'm just trying to take a common sense approach to every subject. Do my research, do my due diligence, and kind of do it as a conservative and try to pinch the pennies when we need to pinch them and spend it when we need to spend.
Right.
It just makes common sense to be smart about how we move forward and being collegial, being respectful, but also being able to disagree. The majority rules in our type of government.
Right.
You win some, you lose some, you move on.
Well, in this last 2-year cycle, has there been a lot of votes by the mayor? Because mayor only casts votes in times of time.
He hasn't had a lot of votes. I mean, maybe a handful, not even. And since I've been on the council, it's been just a handful of times.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's if it's a 3-3 tie, then he votes. But those are pretty rare.
Yeah. Yep.
And so what would you say will be, top of mind, if you will, Hudson is always changing, and you have to address that. I mean, if you're not changing, then you're regressing, right?
Correct.
So what do you see as the next big issues? We've moved the fire station. We're in the process of moving the police station. Let's start there with the public safety, because that's the committee you're on.
Yeah, I'm the chairman. Been the chairman for about 7, 8 years now, I think, on that committee. As far as, we're about 5 years out for bonding for a new station. We've outgrown the space for the police department, and we want to make their job easier because we all know and respect and want our police department to succeed in protecting us all. So providing them with the most up-to-date tools, the building, office equipment, squad cars, you name it. We need to give them the tools to operate a more efficient department.
Has a new site been determined, or is there still options?
There's still options, a lot of talk about it up by the fire station, though, the new fire station.
Well, and I mean, the new fire station, that location has worked out pretty well as far as being able to service the city.
Yes, as far as I know, I haven't seen any complaints or anything come through. I think the responses has been even outpaced previous responses. Now, obviously, there is a decrease in response depending on where our firefighters are coming from during the work home, north side. If they're coming, it takes a little bit of time, but I believe the response times have been pretty good.
Just briefly, because it's been a few years since it was an issue, but probably one of the last most divisive issues we had was the EMS and the EMT, and taking that from in-house to contracting with Lakeview. So how has that been?
They're doing very well, and I've heard no complaints from that department either from our citizens. And I'll tell you, they have, I think, exceeded what we thought was going to be happening. They're fully staffed, I believe, from the last conversation we had, and they really are in tune to what the community has been wanting. And I was a big proponent of the EMS at the time, and I switched my mind because it made common sense fiscally and how to make sure we had the safest EMS department we could possibly have, and switching made the most sense. So at that time, it was a good decision to make, and I've heard nothing but compliments about the EMS, and I know their response time is very low.
And it has helped with the budget.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to budget, we generally don't hear our council or our city government going to the voters to try and override the limits that the state has placed on municipalities. Hudson is at a disadvantage as compared to, say, River Falls, because we don't get nearly the state aid they do.
Right.
Although in this budget proposed by the governor, he wanted to increase that quite a bit. Now the opposite party has control of the legislature, and they've vowed to come up with their own budget that's probably going to be quite a bit different. The areas where we've borrowed money has been for the things like the capital projects, whether it's a fire station, in this case, we're talking about the public works in terms of the capital projects, and having a 5-year plan, I guess, is what we're current at. Is that right? Can you expound on that?
We're doing every 5 years now. We went back to that there during the COVID. We went to a smaller plan because things were coming at. We weren't with the uncertainty of how things were going to move forward as far as budgetary purposes. So now we're back to a 5-year with some bigger projects. It's easier to spread that out. Back to your shared revenue, I would love to see more shared revenue, but you and I both know that in our community, in this county, in this side, our demographics say otherwise, that we are not, we're a high-end demographic, so we don't get as much state aid like a college, a municipality like River Falls. We're not holding our breath, but we have done such a good job at being very conscious of the taxpayer's dollar. You've been here long enough to know that everybody says Hudson's too expensive to live in. So we hear that, and we don't want to raise any more taxes than we have to, but at the same time, we don't want to shirk our duty of infrastructure, public safety, and services.
Right.
We have to be smart about how we spend those dollars and justify why we're doing it. And infrastructure is the perfect example, which I would put as a number one priority right now, is to get these streets in working order. The others would be public safety as well. We have a speeding problem in Hudson, and we need to slow people down. We have people that go through red lights and stop signs all the time. We have an issue there.
Is there going to be any plan to go to secret cameras or hidden cameras?
No, and I'm against that. We put the cameras up, and it's a great investment we did for the city, where we have cameras on every exit entrance to the city.
Okay.
And it's a multi-state system that we have, where we can sit and look, and anything that is on a warrant or anybody that is on a warrant, anything that went on out.
Stolen vehicles.
Stolen vehicles, crimes against people, anything. We can zoom in on that time and see frames, and it's helped us already and helped other communities already arrest and take care of the perpetrators on some of this.
But it's not going to be the sole evidence on a citation, for example.
Never is, no. But they can go back to it.
Right.
Now, I'm not the lawyer, you are, so
Yeah.
I don't know what you meant by that specifically.
Well, I'm in intersections. I get frustrated by some people who think that they can make, even though that they're still 50 feet away and it's already red and they're still going through.
Right.
So, I mean, but Hudson has not, there's been some communities that have gone to, relying solely on, photographs to prove cases and then mail the citation type of thing, but Hudson's no plans on going there.
That is not why we did that.
Okay.
And we're not, at least my opinion, I will not support anything like that.
Okay.
I think that's a different
Well, you mentioned, the public works and infrastructure, and, that 11th Street Bridge. The mayor mentioned that as something that definitely is getting closer to a present issue rather than something put off in the future, and not likely to get state help. I mean, Exit 2 is a different issue that, where we want to try and time things where the state can invest their dollars. Just like we did with 2nd Street and timed it with State Highway 35 and the state dollars there. But what's your position with regard to 11th Street, and how do you see that playing out?
That was my push. I've been working on it for a better part of 6 years.
Because it's in your district, right?
Right. Well, that is just a safety issue.
Right.
And being a businessman in Hudson all my life, I go in and out over that bridge 3, 4, 5 times a day.
Right.
And now it's starting to back up all the way to the light on Industrial.
Yeah.
It's obnoxious. I have constituents over in the River Ridge and the Twilights that want to cross and get on the bike path and go downtown, and it's not safe. I'm surprised somebody hasn't gotten hurt or killed up there yet.
Right.
It's just a matter of time, and if we don't get at it, I was very frustrated a couple meetings ago because I have been working on this. And it's been a priority. Even my last election, I made that is number one priority, to get that bridge widened and a safety crossing across it. I mean, that's where you have to spend money. If it comes to safety, it's justifiable about spending money to make that a safer crossing, a more efficient crossing, and in making sure we can get people and cars crossed together safely.
2 of the last 3 times I've gone up that hill, and it's obviously within the last month, I've seen either near accidents where people are trying to beat lights. They get frustrated in standing in line so long, and they think one more vehicle, and people have these left turn only arrows and they ignore those, and so it can be a dangerous intersection.
Oh, for sure, and I'm not done giving up on that one.
Okay.
We will get that done, hopefully sooner than later. But the money's got to be right there. It's got to be there, and we're working on that.
Okay.
And one other thing about this whole public safety thing, we're going to start enforcing harder.
Okay.
And that's a public service announcement.
Yeah.
But
all right.
because enough of the running through the stoplights and the stop signs and the speeding, people in crosswalks, people are going to get hurt.
Right.
It's enough. So we are talking as to a plan of enforcement.
All right. Speaking of enforcement, and one of the biggest changes in the last 5 years for the downtown area has been the parking. Took out the old meters that were old technology, malfunctioning quite a bit. And so how has that turned out with the app and?
I think we had a very hard opening with it. I think as we've gotten full year's worth of data and a full year's worth of revenue in, the picture looks much brighter. I don't hear as many rumblings as there were.
Right.
We've added over 40 parking spots where the old fire station was. That's helped relieve a lot of things. Obviously, right now, winter, it's a little tough.
Right.
But we're still going to have a parking problem, and it's how we mitigate it. And one of the reasons we put those systems in was so we can turn those cars over. It wasn't to get people. It wasn't to, make money or anything. It's to turn the cars over so other people have an opportunity to go in and have 2 hours worth for a dinner.
Right.
Or a theater show at the Phipps.
Right.
Selfless plug.
And you want that, yeah, and you want those folks to, while we want to serve our residents, we also know that it's an economic advantage to be welcoming to our neighbors, whether they're from Minnesota, River Falls, or New Richmond, or wherever, and that they can come down and have a good time and get their turn, so to speak, in parking. But I think, like you said, it was a little bit of some getting used to the new system, and people understanding that, you don't get to park right in front of the restaurant you want to eat at. You might have to walk, heaven forbid, 3 blocks.
I'm sure you've heard it over the years I think I've probably said it to you, we don't have a parking, we have a walking problem. People just want to park right where they want to go.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, just like you said. I mean, ideally, you can't do that in Stillwater.
Right.
If that's the example we were compared to, but
yeah.
I think it's going to work. It's working. It's starting to take effect.
Okay. So what other issues? I think what I'm hearing from Randy Morrissette is, focusing on the basics of what the city should be providing, whether it's public safety, decent roads. But beyond that, do you see any expansion of other services?
We have to be smart about our development, and I'm sure others have talked about the Gagnon property down on 2nd and 1st Street. We have to be smart about it, but the bottom line is it's his property. He could put a building there with or without community input. It doesn't work the best that way, but he's looking for variance. So it's just a matter of going through the steps and planning appropriately and comparing it with our comprehensive plan to adjust to it as much as we possibly can. Workforce housing, you've heard that term. Of course we need it. And we're continuing to look for ways to do that. But again, it comes down to the developer. There is no state aid for housing up here.
Right.
Besides the Section 42s and 8s, that. But they're not building that stuff up here.
We got just a couple minutes, just end with, annexation. And I've heard you, interviewed you many times, talking about, smart growth. And, our only opportunity, we can't grow to the north because of North Hudson. We can't grow to the west because of the river. Our really main avenue is to the south. We did that with Red Cedar Canyon. And now, do you see that potential and obviously it's not up to the city anyway, it's up to the surrounding landowners to apply for it. But do you see some expansion of the city, to the south of Rivercrest School?
Yes, I would think so, and I would support it as long as we do our due diligence on what impact it will have, and if at the time is right, we can support it through services, whether it be plowing of the roads, police service, all that stuff. We got to be smart about it.
All right.
Take a look at it, and make sure it makes sense.
Sure.
I mean, because River Falls is aggressively moving to the north.
Right.
So we want to remain competitive.
Yes.
For economics.
That's right. Yeah, they've had tremendous growth to the north,
Right.
and that's whereas they have options of growing in other directions. They're coming at us,
Right.
if you will,
Right.
and so game on, I guess. Final. I said final before, but we're seeing a lot of changes on Carmichael, and we know that the state has pushed off into the further in the future what they're going to do at Exit 2. But do you see the city crossing Carmichael and getting to the east side there with further development in addition to Hudson Physicians?
It all depends on the developers and what the landowners want to do. If that is, again, it would go back to the same concept of we got to talk it through. Does it make sense? Can we afford it, both financially, structurally, infrastructure-wise and all of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to make sense. I've always been smart growth.
Right.
Let's talk it out.
All right. Well, we'll end there, and I won't, talk about how Carmichael has changed. Now it's a lot slower, so we want to stop our speeding on Carmichael.
I
Right?
agree, and that's the reason why we did that. And
Yeah.
hopefully we can get it more consistent throughout as we...
Right, because we've added 2 stoplights now on
Correct.
Carmichael to the north there. So
Should
anyway,
help.
Randy, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service on the Hudson City government. And appreciate, that it hasn't always been easy, but I've always seen you try to, like you say, talk things out. So hopefully in that spirit, we'll see further progress in that area the next 2 years.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and hope everybody votes April, I believe, was the 4th.
April 4th, yep.
And I just...
Lots of stuff on the ballot.
I have the passion for Hudson, and I truly want to do what's right for the people of Hudson, and that's all.
All right. Well, very good. Thank you again for your service, and thank our viewers for watching another segment of Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm Jamie Johnson. Keep watching.